All right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minister. We skipped last week. I took a week off. Actually made a music video last week called Known by Its Fruit from the new album I'm putting together called Forged in the Wasteland. And I've been putting this video together and getting the room set up and putting my notes together. And this is like the third time I've had to start this video. All these like little distractions coming in and out. And the camera had a little problem, so I got that fixed. So I feel like it's going to be a good message. Every time that the distractions come right before the performance, know that you're about to give a divine performance or give a solid performance there. And this last week's or the last message from the minister was part one. What we're doing is we're reading through the seventh overstanding, the seventh sense in the Gospel of Hip Hop, written by the teacher KRS-One. And last week we talked about matter, and the title of last week's message from the minister was "Be at One with Yourself, Your Source, Energy, Life Force." And we looked into what matter is, and we found out that matter is energy and light and feeling and feelings, and it's all of these metaphysical principles to the word that we call matter. And so what we did was we realized that spirit is behind all the matter, that the way that matter moves, our spirit is behind that, and that at the essence of who we are the spirit that is sensing and feeling through this matter. We're not the body, as we talked about in the Gospel of Hip Hop last week. We're not the body. We're the breath, the consciousness that inhabits the body. We're the breath of God that inhabits the animal body. And so what that does is when we change our perspective about who we are, we start relating then to our spirit self. And this isn't nothing new. This is ancient techniques here, ancient spiritual wisdom. But when you start focusing on the spirit self, all of a sudden you start becoming more aware of what we focus on. So we start becoming more aware of our spirit self and the spirit world. And keep in mind too that when we're talking about this tonight, this week's part two is, what do we call this week? It's called Awake in the Dream. Oh, I love it. Awake in the Dream. We are awake in the dream. This is part two, and we're going to be reading from the second part of the seventh sense. And calling this one Awake in the Dream, because once we realize that we are spirit, and we realize that this is more of a dream world, this is where we kind of ended off last week, and what we'll be picking up this week, is we realize ourselves as spirit beings, and now we start picking ourselves up in this dream world, this dream realm that we call Earth. And as the living breath of God, we realize, and this isn't really part of the lesson, but just know that we affect this matter and this reality outside of us. That's why we talked about matter last week. And so matter now, being our feelings and how we're feeling, it should invoke that this is the matter. Also remember, is made of waves and wave frequencies and light waves and sound waves. This is wave energy, wave physics, as Dr. Apollo calls it. This is wave physics. And so when we're feeling about this dream reality that we live in, we realize that our consciousness is kind of moving this wave physics around us. And some people might call something like that the law of attraction, the law of attraction. And the law of give and receive, what we put out is what comes back to us, the law of reflection. Although when we get deeper, we understand that there's something deeper going on. It shouldn't just be limited to our understanding of what a reflection is, But back to that, we're affecting this dream reality that we live in. There's a state of dreaming called lucid dreaming, and maybe you've experienced it, where you're dreaming, you're going to sleep and you're dreaming in your dream, and you realize, hey, I'm dreaming, but you don't wake up. A lot of times we wake up, we're like, oh, I'm dreaming right now. And so we wake up, and sometimes we're like, whoo, that was a terrible nightmare. And sometimes we wake up from the dream and we're like, oh, that was a great dream. I wish I could go back to it. And sometimes we can. But, the ability that some people really practice this as an art is lucid dreaming, where they go to sleep with this intention. They're going to lucid dream. And while they're in the dream state, they're aware that they're dreaming, and then they wake up in the dream, and then they can literally affect the dream. But even in affecting the dream, there's all this other stuff going on in the dream that something bigger than us, the mind that's greater than us, the God, is also involved in this dream. See, because our mind right now isn't sustaining this entire room. The mind of God is sustaining this entire room. Now, since we all share the same mind, there's only one mind, the mind of God. We're experiencing this perspective, this facet, this of God, where it's we're seeing it from our perspective. But we're also seeing all of this other stuff like this wall. Even though I intentionally put these here, this is all being sustained by the greater mind. And then this is being sustained by the greater mind too. Because we don't think about our breathing, we don't think about our blood flow or our heartbeat. These things just happen automatically. And so the physical world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So a lot of things are going on spiritually that we're not even aware of, but yet are happening automatically. And it's a good thing to become aware of those things, just like with the body. With the body, we become more aware of our breath and of our breathing in certain situations. And we realize that maybe because of the stresses of life, we're like cutting our breath short. We're cutting our breath short. We talked about last week, the breath is God, the breath of God, where it's consciousness that we're inhaling into this animal body. Why? Because when we lose our breath, if we run out of air, if we're put in a vacuum, or we go underwater or something and we can't breathe, first thing we lose is consciousness when we can't breathe. So that breath is the consciousness. And so it's like, we sit here and we're breathing in and out, and we don't really think about it, But then we go into like a yoga class or a Tai Chi class or another class, and all of a sudden, we're learning how to take deep breaths. We start getting more into our breathing, and we're more relaxed in the day, and we can start meditating differently and calm our nervous system down, and all kind of wonderful things through breath control. MCing is great. They have breath control as an MC. When to gulp the air, how many syllables put in the words before you even have to take another breath. You can just keep going on and on like this. If you took a deep breath, you can keep going words, or you word. Like the way the breath works. Wow, man, it's just like just know that way. Like the breath just oxygenates the brain. The blood starts flowing more. It invigorates the body. The breath does. That's why singing feels so good. Those of you who've sang before, who are singers, you get lightheaded after you sang really well because of the way the oxygen's moving. There's a high to singing. That's why our ancestors all sang around the camp and around the fire and with the tribes. So this breath is really important that we tune into. And just like that, in the spirit world, there's certain spiritual aspects of ourselves that we want to start tuning into. Like, for instance, what's a popular one? Oh, the third eye. People call it the third eye. It's all over in pop culture now, in cartoons. Avatar: The Last Airbender. When my kids were little growing up, they watched this show, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they're talking about chakras and third eye. And I'm like, whoa, like that was blowing me away, because that was stuff that I had to go and study, to find out about when I'd hear about it. And so probably KRS-One lyrics, or, some, Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest, and The Abstract, one of my favorite MCs. Anyway, we talk about this third eye, but when we tune into our breath, we're physically breathing in and out. But a spiritual idea like the third eye, but we start thinking, oh, what is my third eye sight? It's just like when we think, what is my breath? We start tuning into the natural breath. What is my third eye sight? We start thinking into the third eye sight. And we start maybe doing some research or talking or asking about it, or, doing a little more meditation, or starting to meditate and start tuning into the inner mind's eye. It was Leaders of the New School, Time, the inner mind's eye. Okay, let's put up leaders of the new school. Busta Rhymes, Charlie Brown, all the rest of the crew. That's a great album, The Inner Mind's Eye, Time. And also Tribe Called Quest. Let's see, oh man, there's so many great ones. We'll just go with Low End Theory. They're all great, but Low End Theory, word. You learn a lot of concepts, like before the internet, like these albums, like hip hop albums, like the conscious hip hop albums, were where we got a lot of concepts. It was like, all these dope metaphysical concepts and ancient Kemetic knowledge and coming through, even the Tao and Buddhism coming through, like that's dope, you think about it. But the third eye anyways, so we start tuning into the spiritual senses, we start tuning into our spiritual being. We say, I'm the breath inhabiting this body. Okay, so like we talked about last week, I'm at one with myself. We just embrace the oneness of who we are. But as that happens, and we're saying, wait a minute, now that I'm realizing myself as a spirit being, I'm starting to realize I can affect this dream reality around me, and that's the title of this week, Awake in the Dream. And my nobility, thank you for being here, because why we are awake in the dream right now, we can feel this, exactly what's being said, because we're having a lucid moment right now. And what is that lucid moment is? It's like just this like stillness. And it used to happen a lot when you were a kid, if you think about it. If you really think about it, especially, the younger we were, like we really would experience our lucid state of being, where all of a sudden it's like, wow, I'm awake in this dream. Wow, this is, this is dope. And my awareness just expanded, and I'm beyond worry or stress or doubt or fear in this moment. And I'm just feeling myself as the true being that I am, but yet still here I am in this dream, in this life, in this reality, in this body. And so hopefully you just remembered that feeling you had when you're a kid, and you start seeing what we're talking about here. Because the more we can live in that state of being, the more we experience one another. That's why, right now, our state of being across all time and space, we all here together in this place, right here and right now, the everlasting now, the eternal now. And no matter where you're at, in earth, where you're at in this realm, or how far forward in the future from this recording you are in this realm, we're all here together in spirit. And we've continued to do this, some of us, who've been tuning in. I think this is almost 79 or 80 message from the MINISTA number. And I thank you all for coming through, like for real, from my heart to yours. Thank you. It's much appreciated, and the gratitude is there. And because there's a mutual energy exchange going on that you may not be aware of, or you may be aware of, is that as an MC, this is MCing. This is just the form that MCing is expressing itself through me in this time and space, due to my outer environment and my responsibilities, and where God has really planted me. And we teach that we grow where we are planted, so no matter where we are, we grow where we are planted. And so right now I'm not able to travel taking care of my ailing father. I don't think he's really got a whole lot longer, He's just, he can't even talk anymore or really eat solid food. And, so this is like crunch time, this is like the fourth quarter of a finals or something. And, but this has been an awareness for me as an MC. There were some things I've been needing to say, some things I've been wanting to share over the years of my experience I've been wanting to share with an audience. Now, if I didn't have an audience, there'd be like, I wouldn't first of all be recording these videos without you, but I also wouldn't have the inspiration that comes every week without you. See, because the idea is that I want to speak in real time and teach in real time as the Temple of Hip Hop. That's what we about. And so like even though I'm speaking to people in the future, and this is everybody now, this whole crew here, this whole crew, is that I'm just getting to be a focal point for a moment of some energy. Woo, it's coming through me and going right back out. It's coming through and going right back out, That's just all it is. It's just energy coming in and out. And we all do this all the time, with however big our audience is, whether our audience is just a friend or our audience is, 70 people, 80 people, maybe 1,000 in the future. I don't know how big this audience will be, 10,000, 20,000. who will see this video eventually, maybe in the future. Like, who knows? Because this is like hip hop archives. This is hip hop history, her story, our story. This is hip hop in the flesh. Minister Zin Uru is so fresh. But the energy exchange between us is profound. And so while we're awake in this dream, we're also awake in a dream realm with others. Okay, and whether they're awake and aware or not, that part is the fun of it. Because the more we wake up to ourselves in this dream world, the more we're able to interact with it. It's really about it's dope. I mean, interacting with, all of this stuff, and I'm just pointing to my wall because it's the physical world, right? What we call the physical world. Interacting with Bruce Lee posters and Martin Luther King posters and stuff. It's fun, the hands-on, interacting with a car, that hands-on, that's dope. But it's like, it's when we can help change somebody's lives for the better. Even our own, put ourselves right in there. When we can change our lives for the better, and then we can change our lives for the betterment of humanity. That's what we're talking about here, because that's what the spiritual side is about. The spiritual side is not for the selfish. They can study the spiritual texts, they can read them, they can quote from them, they can even pose as them. But the real knowing truth is, it's just like nobody can really know. Those who feel it know it, Lord, as Bob Marley says. Who feels it knows it, Lord. Those who can feel that truth and that real being realize that, like, it comes because of compassion for others. It comes because we love others. We want to see our communities do better. We want to see our families do better. And not in a better competitive kind of way, the American competition the kind of way, but better in our humanity, more loving, more caring, more patient, more peaceful, more rested. We need more rest. We have an entire community. Our parents needed rest. We needed more rest growing up. It's a shame that people feel so guilty about resting the body. Now I'm looking at Missy. She's sitting over there across the room, just chilling, resting. That cat doesn't feel shame for resting. She doesn't feel any shame for that. So why should we? The fast-paced world wants to keep us going, boom, boom, boom. You jump out of the womb, they want you in preschool, they want you in kindergarten, then the kindergarten, K through 12, first, 14, 15, 16 years of your life, just taken up by a schedule of school. Just da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We're just being pumped nonstop with propaganda. And by age 7 is when we start leaving our theta state of mind. So even like kindergarten, first, second grade, like those years, we're still in theta when we're in school and getting indoctrinated, with domesticated. And then we to prepare us for the work world, and in college for some, and the work world for others, and then prison for others, and then a few break free and become artists, popular artists. But then a lot of the ones who had to break free to become popular artists sold their souls to an industry, and all of this, it's just like, wow, it's quite a thing, because God didn't create earth for this reason at all. Our abilities are so far beyond what we're experiencing right now that once we wake up to the fact, the reality that we are in a dream state, then reality shifts all around us. And the more of us that start waking up to that, the more the reality shifts. Because there's no reason we don't have land and houses that are bioenergetic. And by I mean bioenergetic, I'm talking about we're getting the Earth's natural solfeggio frequencies up through our feet. And I'm not talking about living in dirt and mud here. I'm talking about living in the dopest house you can imagine. And just buildings that the energy flows because it's curves. It's not boxes. It's not squares. And there can be angles. Angles are dope too. But flows like graffiti art, like woo. And then we have food that's grown, and people just wake up at different times of the day. And some people like the garden, and they spend 10, 12 hours a day in the garden. But it's not like working like what we would see somebody out in the field working, picking cotton or picking berries or anything like that. What we're talking about is that, like, when the garden is the earth and there's no schedule and there's no clock and there's no master telling you what time and how much your hour is worth and all of that, when you don't have that, you go out in the garden, you work for a couple hours and you lay in the grass, you eat something you planted 2 months ago, chewing on some leaves, drinking some fresh water, hanging out with your friends, smoking a doobie, whatever. Getting up, getting some more work done. Why? Because the earth is play. It's all just play in its natural state of being. And if we really, really want to tune into that for a moment, we will really realize how far we have actually fallen collectively. And it is nothing short of a sinister plot by the universe itself. The sovereign mind of God has allowed this state of being for humanity, or though it would not be if God did not allow. So even the evil that we see going on in the world, realizing that God is allowing these things to happen, we might want to realize that we don't have to take responsibility and feel bad for all these things that are literally out of our control. Literally out of our control. What's going on in some part of the world of wars and rumors of wars, like, that's out of your control personally, like literally. They may have lied to you and told you, oh, your vote counts and we can all make a difference, but that's a lie. Your vote don't count, and no, you cannot make a difference. Not in their game, not in their world, not in their creation. You're either a pawn or you just sit out in their world. In our world, you fresh hip hoppa, full of life and energy and light, and the true creation, you realize they're just an illusion. But let's think about some of those lies like that. Like I was thinking about this when I was preparing this message, and there's this stupid lie that they tell children. I was told this all the time. You can be anything you want. You can be anything you want. That is the worst lie to tell anyone, ever. You cannot be anything you want. Because all day, people are being everything but what they want. And I enjoy watching a game of basketball, professional basketball, NBA basketball. I'm 5'9", 145 pounds, 49 years old. I'm in good shape. I'm fit. I'm healthy. I eat right. I've exercised right. I've kept myself good. No matter how hard I work, I will not be the starter, the starting center for the Golden State Warriors. I won't. I could have started with this dream at 11 years old. Maybe that would be true. On some crazy throw them in for 1 minute and then out of the game, something like that. But I said starting center for the Golden State Warriors. And if somebody's telling a child you could be anything you want without putting that into some kind of a proper context, because what they're telling a child is, you can be anything you want. There's 7 choices up here, and you can be any one of those 7 things, and you can be anything you want. But subconsciously, it's telling somebody, do what thou wilt, shall beat the whole of the law. It's a lie. You cannot be anything you want. But that's good. Because what does God want for you? What does God want for me? What does God want from us, for us, through us, as us? What is God asking of us? Because God's not allowing any of us to be anything we want, to do anything we want. God is saying, this is my will, plan, and purpose for your life. Sooner or later, whether in this incarnation or the next or the next or the next, you're going to get it. You can keep rebelling and keep working against God, and we can do all this and all of this, but all we're doing is stunting our own growth, hurting our own communities, and hurting one another by not listening to God. Now, we're awake in this dream, right? We're talking about being awake in the dream. But people want to control everything. I want to control the matrix. Remember, he said, the problem, Neo, is control. You can bend the matrix to your will. You can break these rules. There are certain rules you can bend, even break. But you're not in control. So when we enter into the spirit world and we start using our third eyesight, and we start using this third eyesight, we can't control how everything presents itself. We can't control what's going on the news. We can control if we turn it on or off. We can control what we listen to and not listen to. We have some level of control, but let's call it discipline at that level. It's a higher level of thinking than control, discipline. But you can't just control reality, control the way people think. They try and do that through the media. That's why they're failing, because it doesn't work. It breaks universal law at so many levels. I mean, even our own selves, we have to discipline ourselves with it's like, I can control my thinking, yes, but I can discipline my thinking so I'm thinking the thoughts that are healthy, loving, aware, and wealthy for myself, my family, my community, and God. That's where the discipline comes in. And I'll tell you this too, while we're talking about the spiritual sight, because things just got a little deep here. While we're talking about the spiritual sight, remember that the body is going to reflect the spirit, but the spirit also reflects the body. It's moving. There's a movement. There's a relationship. It's just the same thing, really. It's really just the same thing. It's the wholeness. It's the oneness. It's the completeness. So when we're talking about discipline, we talked about last week when the seventh sense talked about this, that we have to control the cravings of our body and get to it quickly so we can experience the spiritual living that God has for us. And so discipline of the body then, discipline over the cravings of the flesh becomes really powerful. And it's not just discipline over the foods that we intake. It's disciplining sitting too long at a job while we got lower back pain when we need to get out and go for a walk. The discipline is going out for the walk. The discipline might be changing jobs too. The discipline can be, I do have to get up at a certain time of the day for my optimal health. If I get up at this time of the day, I can go running and it's the perfect time, or I can get up and exercise at the perfect time, and the kids are up and I have my responsibilities. This works for me. This kind of discipline. I'm going to discipline how much I eat and what I eat this week, or just for my life. But the physical discipline, the spiritual discipline, without the physical discipline, the spiritual discipline eventually, the spirit just burns the body out. The spirit all kind of stuff starts happening. The body starts shutting down. Because the body has to be vibrating at a high level, because the spirit is vibrating at a faster level. And so when our body is healthier and we have, our blood's flowing better, we got our water, we've exercised, we've stretched, we're limber. And I'm talking simple. I'm not talking about hours and hours a day. I'm talking, 20 minutes a day. Ask Eddie G. Eddie Jesus will tell you 20 minutes a day will change your life. That's not too much to ask for a long, healthy, loving, aware, wealthy life. But what happens is that if you're trying to explore and do all these spiritual things, but you're not taking care of the body, the spirit's just going to and run the body into a wall, or let's not put that out there, but the spirit's going to, eventually the body's going to have to slow down and recuperate and recover. But a healthy body, the spirit's able to move through the body, and the spirit knows when to pull the body back, and the body's loose, and the spirit can move through the body. Now, the reason we're talking about physical discipline, there's something I wanted to bring up this week. A good friend of mine brought this to my heart and my attention and my soul this week. And it was something that I was already thinking about. So it was just like such a strong affirmation. And, we were talking about alcohol and the alcohol poisoning and just kind of what alcohol does to the brain, what alcohol does to the body, what alcohol does to the liver and to the blood and to the bones and to the eyes and to the teeth and to all of that. And so for me personally, I'd been thinking about it and started thinking about alcohol and hip hop specifically. Now, this is not directed at anyone, and no one is directed at this. I'm here with you as somebody who spent most of his life drinking, not heavy, not light, just drinking, just drinking, I wasn't a heavy drinker, but I have my times where I drank heavy, it's not on a day-to-day basis, but, a couple times a month, maybe once a month, go out with the friends and drink heavy or, celebration, that type of thing. And then maybe throughout the week have 4 or 5 beers or, a bottle of wine a week or something like that. Nothing heavy, but knowing a lot of alcoholics who did drink heavy kept me from drinking heavy. But I'm just thinking I don't know of anything that has damaged hip hop culture more, and this is for the future. I'm just saying this, and this might ruffle some feathers, but it has to be said. I don't know that there's any single substance, idea, opponent, anything that's done more damage to hip hop culture than alcohol. And I mean that, there's a thing called alcohol poisoning. And as somebody who drank, like I was saying earlier, I don't know, 2 years ago I stopped. I just stopped drinking. I was just like, I'm done. I'm just done. And so I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I was out at Whole Foods and I was like, my body was just craving a pale ale. So I grabbed one. And I didn't have a drinking problem. I didn't get, I didn't have the problems associated with drinking or anything like that. Just, common, casual drinker. But it took the 2-year break, popped open the piney hops of the pale ale, organic, it was good, cold, drink it, brought it home, was watching a movie or something, just drank that beer. Felt good, it was only one beer and I wasn't really, felt good. I felt fine, And, I went to bed that night, woke up the next day, didn't really feel it, but I was feeling something in my body and my blood, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. And I started seeing this shadow come over my eyesight. And this is the fine organic beer. This is some high quality shit too, not just some junk. And my body, 4 days, point being, took to process that alcohol, to pee it out, to, excrete it out, just to get it out of my system. 4 days, just one beer. And I realized that I used to just keep compounding and putting that on top and putting on top of with the kidneys. Now, everybody's gonna go and have their own research. Even the gospel of hip hop, we say, if you're gonna drink, don't drink more than 2 glasses of wine, or a couple glasses of beer or a shot of whiskey. Just, if you're gonna drink, use this level of moderation. We teach that in the gospel of hip hop. So those who are living the gospel of hip hop, if you're hurt by this, just follow, at the very least, if you're not going to cut alcohol out, just follow the directions of the gospel of hip hop in the health section. It'll follow those directions if you're not going to stop completely. But I realized there's some heavy drinkers in hip hop. That's no secret. We're not going to act like it's not a secret, like we don't know. And a lot of those heaviest drinkers are the elders. And so this is a message to the youth, because I'm sure they will agree. It's not healthy to drink heavy like that for 30, 40 years, especially when we're talking about culture, especially when we're talking about building our own city, our own culture, our own community. Because alcohol brings with it, like heavy alcohol consumption, and what it brings with it is a host of energies and disagreements and ego and argument and violence. When, I'll give you an example for this in real life. When we went and did the BET Awards, the teacher was presenting an award on the BET Hip Hop Awards, Hip Hop Honors Awards. And so I go downstairs and I'm inside this room, this tiny bar that's below ground in the dark, down hallways. And they've got all these rappers, all their entourage, all these dudes, all these street dudes shoved in there. They're not allowed to smoke weed, but they got free open bar and alcohol, and there's just so much fight. You got competing crews. This guy got a beef with that guy. He got a beef with them. They got a beef, all this beef. And this woman who was working there, she was the organizer, making sure everybody got their drinks and stuff and knew what time they were going on. She had the clipboard with all the notes and everything, running around with the headset all stressed out. We're walking down this hall real fast. I'm trying to keep up with her. She's asking me, she's like, why are there so many fights? You'd think it's an award show. They'd be happy and celebrate. And I was like, yo, this is the streets we're talking about here. There's beefs, and this is what I just said to y'all. He's like, there's beefs, and this crew wanted a piece of that crew, and he's got beef with that guy, and he don't agree with this guy. I say, and then on top of that, you're giving them free alcohol, and you're not allowing them to smoke weed, which for a lot of dudes will balance out the alcohol from the violent actions and a lot of the deviant shit like that, just become being drunk. But the weed at least helps that calm down. I said, but you took the weed away. And I said, so now you're dealing with the consequences of that because you don't understand hip hop. You don't understand the culture. This is a culture you're bringing in. It's not just a group of musicians who see each other once a year or on tour once in a while. These people, this is community that lives together, knows each other for 30, 40 years, And she's like, wow, I didn't even realize that. Thanks for your help. I'll bring that up. Or I don't know if they changed it. We never went back there. But the point being is that I've done community events. And we're not even, now, this is not all pioneers, okay? Not all pioneers, not all elders, but elders within the community, Coming to, say, a Temple of Hip Hop event. Oh, we all get wild up. We're all like, we all get full of this spirit. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to do in our community. Da, 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 da. Then everybody goes home feeling good, full of the spirit, and they do, oh yeah, I feel so good. You start drinking, and then all of a sudden, the heaviness, the drunkenness comes on, and the brain is just forgetting what it just learned. It's becoming numb to that. And I'm only saying this because I know this through experience, okay? What you do with it is up to you. I'm just only speaking from my personal experience and what I've witnessed. But I will challenge anyone to show me a substance that has caused more damage to hip hop than alcohol. Crack hasn't. Name one substance. Beef? No. Alcohol's done worse than beef. One substance that's done more damage to hip hop than alcohol. And I'm talking consumption. Too much consumption. And I'm saying this to the future. I'm saying this to the youth right now who are the future of hip hop. Because if you really want to organize community, you really want to feel spirit collectively, you really want God to be able to work through you, you're going to have discipline over the body. First and foremost, start there. Always start there. Like anytime you're looking and saying, my life, I'm going to change my trajectory. I'm going to change my trajectory in life. I'm going to go that way now. My trajectory was over there and I was about to crash. But somehow I changed my trajectory and now I'm flying over this way now. This is my trajectory now. And so as you're changing the trajectory, work on the discipline of the body. Work on the push-ups, the exercise, the eating right. Limit your alcohol or don't drink it at all. Don't drink. I haven't missed it after 2 years. And I had that one the other day and I enjoyed it. It was great. But 4 days of processing one beer because my body's running so clean I can just feel whatever I put in it. I was like, yo, that's wild. Like, that's wild. 4 days? Wow. 4 days for one beer. And I'll throw a Red Bull in there one time. I drank a Red Bull, sugar-free, out on tour. Just about to pass out. They didn't have no coffee. We've been driving all day. It was late at night. We had to get the show done. Oh, yo, let me get that Red Bull. Propped open like the best, like well, there's no healthy Red Bulls. Drank that down. Felt good. Felt great. Tasted good even. Oh, man. The next day, though, because my body's running clean, I'm feeling it through my kidneys. I'm pissing it out. I'm just like, oh, fuck. I'm feeling it in my nervous system, my headache. I get this weird headache. I'm like, yo, fuck that. I ain't putting that in my body no more. So, if you really want to experience spirit and really want to be awake in the dream, your body's going to have, and we're going to get to that and when we read the Gospel of Hip Hop, your body is going to have to be in tune with that. Or the spirit will just burn it out and you'll have to crash land and pick up the pieces again. And that's kind of fun. I ain't going to front. I was there. Like I'm speaking from experience here. I'm not saying like, oh, I just breezed through this. I'm doing this because I didn't take care of myself. I drank too much at times. I wasn't on top of my diet like I should have been. I wasn't in my exercise like I needed to be. And the Spirit was moving through me. And I'm calling people. I'm doing stuff. We're making albums and stuff. But then all of a sudden would always come the crash. And the crash was kind of fun because it's like, whoa, I picked myself back up. Oh, man, sleep in. Oh, my back is hurting today. Okay, time to do the self-care. Let me get my push-ups. Let me just be drinking water. Let me purify myself. Let me cleanse myself. The Rocky moment, dun, 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 dun. That feels good too. So there's no this and nobody wherever you're at with it, But as we get older, and maybe as you're younger, you might want to realize and do this now, is that the consistency, the maintenance of just keeping the body always feeling good, always feeling fresh, always feeling alive, always feeling energized, always feeling like, like it can carry the vibration of spirit. Then when the spirit moves into the body, because the spirit it's the breath. Sometimes it's in, sometimes it's out. So sometimes you're just sitting there waiting and the spirit just like, whoo, and then all of a sudden things are happening, spirit's moving in your life. But if you're able to be fluid with it and you don't crash and you land, then you get your rest. Then you don't crash though. You learn to land. It's like a bird. You don't crash land all the time. That's really what it's about. It's really about that day-to-day discipline and that fluidity that comes with it. And then we don't crash land. We land, we wait for the next adventure. We wait for the next breath of the Spirit that moves through us. Last week, it was, I had, and I'm glad that it waited this week because this is a better message from the minister. Last week I was getting prepared and I was like, man, I am just, I've had so much going on today. I'm not focused on message from the minister. In fact, I don't even feel like I'm supposed to be doing it. Now, I pushed through before and with great results, but I was like, Spirit was, my soul, everything was like, no, just stop. I stopped. I thought, well, I'll do a guided meditation later this week or what it is. And I just was like, and then, it's just been crazy over here with my pops, like it's a lot of work right now. And, so Monday goes by, Tuesday goes by, Wednesday goes by. I haven't made anything. And I've been working. I've been doing all these other things that I need to get done. And I hadn't really been creative though, or had an outlet for creativity, expression. So I was starting to feel kind of depressed because I wasn't feeling expressed. And so Wednesday night, I wasn't sad or nothing. I was just like depressed. I was like, fuck, man, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted, yet I need to increase my vibration right now. I don't need more sleep right now. I'm already rested. So what I did was I jumped in, took a cold shower real quick, and set up the green screen. I was like, I'm going to shoot a music video. Had no idea what I wanted to make the music video about. I just knew the song I was going to use. And so I just got myself ready and started filming. Usually when we feel creative, we catch these creative waves or these creative ideas and they just kind of flow through. But this one, it just, but as I was doing it, I was very intellectualizing the creativity, and I was rapping for the camera, and Anyway, got the video done. Shot, like 4 different scenes that I wanted to edit together, got them downloaded, went to bed that night, woke up the next day, and was just like, I got to focus just on what I'm doing. I got to turn, like if there's an immediate need, I'll take care of it right now, responsibility, but I'm not sending no emails, I'm not doing nothing today. I've got to create space for myself because I haven't done it for a while. And I just created that space for that day and just started working on the video, editing the video, but the video started coming through me. And I just would get these little inspirations and go, and the video just turned out fresh. I really dig the video, the energy of it, the way the song sounds, the editing, the colors, all of that. But it was like, it was a lot of work, but that video was a day. That was only one day's work, from one night, a full day, and I released it the next day. So it was literally like a 24-hour period of time, maybe 30-hour period of time. But you put sleep in there and stuff, but it just happened. And it was all I worked on for that period of time. But that was the breath of God. That was Spirit moving in through me. And I didn't really know what was happening, but then when the breath came through, and even my resistance, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to work through my resistance. So this is where discipline comes in. This is why when you are disciplined, you know how to work through your own resistance because you get used to working through your own resistance. If you exercise every day, there's resistance to exercising. Until then, there's no more resistance because it's just acceptance. And then you just enjoy the feeling of the blood and the muscle and the tissue and the sweat. You enjoy that feeling. So in spirit with the third eye, with that discipline, the spiritual sight, the spiritual discipline, we're awake in the dream. I felt that last week. It's like, oh man, this is heavy. I don't really normally feel like this. I never feel like, just stop and don't do a message from the minister this week. I have my ideas and stuff, and then okay. And then just a decline of creative flow from there. Just a lot of mundane world stuff had to be done there. But then all of a sudden it was like the out breath, or it was the in breath, and I was like, oh, and then whew. But when the out breath came, I'd still been doing my discipline each day. I was still eating right each day. I was still doing what I needed to do, performing responsibility, divine performance through those days. But when the breath of the Spirit decided to blow through me, even my own mental resistance, I was just like, well, I'm disciplined. So I'm going to practice spiritual discipline. And I'm going to record myself, make this music video, and then the energy came through. Like God came through. God provided the inspiration. And I want to say it's a dance, but that's almost too poetic. Systematic, that's too technical. There's a rhythm to it. And in that rhythm, knowing thyself and knowing how to motivate thyself when you don't feel motivated. Knowing how to accept change and receive change and enact change even when you're resisting that change. When we are resistant to it, but we can still act in accordance with it, that's where the real discipline is. I'm going to put this up here on the screen. Because to me, this is, we talked about miracles a while back. And, a miracle isn't always just parting the Red Sea or bringing somebody else back from life. A miracle is also little synchronicities that happen in our lives each day. And so as I was preparing this message from the minister, Awake in the Dream, I'm thinking, well, we're just getting prepared to be awake in the dream. And I opened up my laptop, which doesn't have a lot on it. And this note from Brandon Lee, which I had not opened, which I don't even remember, didn't even know it was on this computer, popped up. And I've read this quote before, but I was like, yo, this quote is in exact alignment with what we're talking about. Literally. The universe can send an alignment even through a digital medium. What is the reality and mind of God if everything is the reality of the mind of God? And watch how perfect this fits in. And I know this is going to really hit a few of you out there, if not more. This is from Brandon Lee. This is Bruce Lee's son, Brandon. And he says this, well, I would say this. When you move down the road towards mastery of the martial arts, and you know you're constantly moving down that road, you end up coming up against these barriers inside yourself that will attempt to stop you from continuing to pursue the mastery of the martial arts. And these barriers are such things as when you come up against your own limitations, when you come up against the limitations of your will, your ability, your natural ability, your courage, how you deal with success and failure as well for that matter. And as you overcome each one of these barriers, you end up learning something about yourself. And sometimes the things you learn about yourself can, to the individual, seem to convey a certain spiritual sense along with them. It's funny, every time you come up against a true barrier to your progress, you are a child again. And it's a very interesting experience to be reduced once again to the level of knowing nothing about what you're doing. I think there's a lot of room for learning and growth when that happens. If you face it head on and don't choose to say, screw that, I'm going to do something else. We reduce ourselves at a certain point in our lives to kind of solely pursuing things that we already know how to do. You know, because you don't want to have that experience of not knowing what you're doing and being an amateur again. And I think that's rather unfortunate. It's so much more interesting and usually illuminating to put yourself in a situation where you don't know what's going to happen than to do something again that you already know essentially what the outcome will be within 3 or 4 points either way. Brandon Lee. The great Brandon Lee, we limit ourselves in our day by just doing those things we're comfortable with, those routines that we know day in and day out. But when we really want to see change, we have to go outside of our comfort zone. And there's something kind of crazy about that because, like Brandon's saying, we're reduced to a child of not knowing again. And it's always easy to do something that we know over and over again, but to do something we don't know, to experience something new, especially something that God, the universe, nature, that the force is asking us to learn and to know and to experience. Because remember, life is about experience. You're going to experience it, guaranteed. So when you experience that experience and you're uncomfortable and you feel like a little kid, you're like, I don't know, this is all new to me. That's what we're talking about. And Brandon's saying right there, it's spiritual. That sight is spiritual. That experience is spiritual. So when you start using the spiritual sight and you start making these changes, you might feel insecure, guarantee it. You might feel like, I don't know if this is even going to happen. Like, this is scary. I got to walk in faith. That's what faith is. Is faith doing the same thing over and over and over again if you know what the outcome is going to be in 2 or 3 steps? Or is faith in God going forward and having a new experience that God wants us to experience? Where's the faith? What's the walk of faith there? And where's the confidence in that? We're going to be reading that in the Gospel of Hip Hop, like when you're a child, you can't even walk. You're just like you just sit there, people carry you around. You start moving the fingers and the hands and the body starts moving. And then you learn to crawl and then you learn to walk and stand up and then walk. and you fall over, and then you learn to run a little, and then all of a sudden you learn to kick and you do all this other stuff. It's the same thing in the spiritual world. The spirituality is the same thing. You're not going to come in, start and just be like, do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do. That's some nonsense in a lot of the Disney movies now. They've taken the hero's quest out. And they say, oh, it's because of the white patriarchy. We take away the hero's quest. That's not it at all. They've taken the hero's quest out, and then they're wanting to empower. They're saying, okay, we need more strong female leads. Okay, yes, you do. That's been known. But people aren't drawn to a woman not going through the hero's quest herself. People love Trinity's character as an empowering woman in the Matrix because she goes through her own apotheosis, her own quest, at least in the first three. And even the third one, fourth one, they tried to make, but she goes through the hero's quest. She struggled with things. And I believe that Disney is purposely trying to take that out and calling it diversity and calling it all this other stuff. But what they're really doing is taking out the hero's quest. Like the Star Wars movies where she looked like she was going to be so cool in the movies, and she's a great actress and great scenes and all this, but like she was good at everything right away, and she was never bad at anything. She was smarter than everybody, better than everybody, did everything perfect. We never saw her struggle. We never saw her overcome. We never saw any of that. And so you don't feel that. Some people do feel that though, and they're getting told, oh, this is just the way that you do it. You can be anything you want, so just don't go through life with the struggle. But what it's subconsciously doing is it's pointing people not into the direction of becoming a Jedi Knight, because that's the fantasy. It's pointing in the direction of just go with what the state is telling you and don't struggle against it. The hero's quest is always about overcoming the oppression of the status quo. Whether that's the hero's quest in like The Karate Kid, where he's just a kid getting bullied at school, or it's the hero's quest of Luke Skywalker, where he's saving the rebellion from the Galactic Empire. This is something in our soul. This is something we resonate with. When we're awake in the dream, we're like, yo, I've had enough of this world. I've had enough of this. I've had enough of this. I've just had enough. And now what I want more of is I want to experience the life and the reason and the purpose that God created us to be. I want to be awake in this dream for real. And it's not easy. It's the long game. You got to think about, you got to play the long game. Everybody wants the short game, quickness. They want it my way at Burger King now. I want it my way right now, right here, right now. Our ancestors didn't have that luxury. And if our ancestors got our back, they got our back saying, yeah, just live a life of more luxury and just go with the status quo and don't resist. And you'll be just good at everything because we just trained you from your childhood at school to just go with the flow and don't resist and don't have no hero's quest, don't have no character arc, don't ever grow. That's what they're wanting to create people to do. But it goes against organic human nature. All of it goes against organic human nature. So the universal law is true organic human nature, which is always here, always available, always with us, is going to be the hero. We shall overcome. We are the hero. Hip hop as a collective. This is the hero's journey. This is the hero's quest. Look where we're going to be in 100 years. I know you all feel me out there in 100 years saying what I'm seeing, what I'm doing and saying and how accurate it is. Like trust and believe in 100 years, they will know what those of us running around in 2022, even the most aware, did not see, because they'll have the luxury of Professor Hindsight. They'll be able to look back in time and history and say, oh, this is why that happened. This is the bigger picture of what's going on. Okay? But while we're in it, and in the future, you'll be in it too. And your future will have to look back on your time as well. So when we wake up in the dream, we wake up in a reality and a story and a great mystery and this dance and this communion with God and this adventure, this experience. And the more we wake up in the dream, the more we get to experience the experience, the more we get to affect the experience. Let's put it up here. For those of you with a copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop, you can turn to page 341. And we're going to be reading paragraphs 28 to 66. And this, of course, is the seventh overstanding, the seventh sense, in the Gospel of Hip Hop, written by our teacher, KRS-One, and presented to the Temple of Hip Hop. And I, Zin Uru, am a recognized intellectual and spiritual contributor to the Gospel of Hip Hop. Okay, before we begin reading too, you'll see that the title of this message from the minister is Awaken the Dream. So while we've been saying awake in the dream, we've been talking specifically about the seventh sense. I might have said that at the beginning, but I wanted to bring that up now so you can tie in everything I've been saying to this actual reading. Paragraph 28. However, the seventh sense is to feel the truth of the one great unified conscious event as oneself. It is the return to one's non-physical essence while still physically aware. It is to wake up to the reality of the conscious, chaotic universe while voluntarily dreaming the ordered material world. Most people do it at their time of death, awakening, but some, through meditation and/or some dramatic life event, actually wake up to the oneness of the conscious universe while still dreaming the perceived reality of physical life. What a revelation. Consider the idea that this life as we know it is simply the dream of our true existence as beings of light consciousness. For it is light consciousness that we are, and it is more light consciousness that we shall become. At the time of our physical deaths, we simply wake up. Read that again. At the time of our physical deaths, we simply wake up. For this physical life is only a temporary rest for our real existence as beings of conscious light. Consider this. Conscious awareness uses an enormous amount of energy, even in the physical world. This is why those who think often also sleep often. Just by being conscious, we wear our bodies out. Likewise, as beings of light, conscious, we use an enormous amount of energy in the universe just to remain conscious. Therefore, this is so deep, my nobility. As non-physical beings of the conscious universe, we rest from our true existence as light only to dream the life we are living now. The physical world is the dream or idea of the spiritual realm and spiritual beings. The longer we live, dream in this physical world, the more rest we are getting as beings of light in the conscious universe. And when we have fully rested, lived in the physical world, we simply wake up, die. However, while resting, this is a key right here, my nobility, because you're going to relate to this. Most of us will. However, while resting, some beings of light experience nightmares, traumatic life experiences, such as physical injury, worry, sickness, hate, ignorance, poverty, etc., which cause them to be awakened from their sleep, die before they are fully rested as spiritual beings. Such people, at their physical deaths, awaken to their true selves as beings of conscious light, only to find themselves still tired or unfulfilled. Such people, beings, for a lack of energy fulfillment, fall back to sleep, returning to the dream of physical life, repeating the process again until they are fully rested. However, those people, those beings that do get a full life's rest, awaken at the time of their physical deaths fully rested. Such people, beings, acquire the energy needed to stay awake as beings of light. They do not have to rest again for a long, long time. They do not need to sleep again, having dreams of a physical life with its traumatic and stressful experiences. As fully rested beings of conscious light, they live in the peace of eternal mind. If you notice, when you are sleeping, your dream world is just as real as the physical world you are resting from. In your dream world, you have friends, relatives, memories, material goods, concerns, and responsibilities. They are all very real and very important to you while you are asleep. However, when you awaken from your sleeping, you care nothing for the people, places, things, and events of your dream world, especially if your dream life was a nightmare. While you are dreaming, nothing except the happenings of your dream world is important to you until you wake up. In fact, and this is key here, what you got to notice is that, like, if you're going through something traumatic, remember, you're just living a dream right now. And the same way, if you go through a traumatic dream, you can just kind of forget about it. You can kind of wake up from it and just move on. Same thing. While you are dreaming, nothing except the happenings of your dream world is important to you until you wake up. In fact, when you are asleep in the physical world, you literally look dead. It is only the automatic physical functions of the body that continue to operate when you are asleep. However, conscious awareness, you, is gone. And without you, conscious awareness, the body is semi-lifeless, even fully lifeless. For death, just like your dreams, is so real, so relaxing, so important, such an escape to you that when you die, you care nothing for the happenings and relationships of the physical world that you have left behind unless you choose to. For the consciousness that you suddenly remember at your so-called time of death is the truth of your being. And in that truth is a peace that is simply unattainable in the illusion of physical life. In death, you escape the illusions of physical life. You are in truth. You may even wish that all of your relatives and friends were dead so that they may experience the peace and joy that you have attained by escaping the nightmares of physical life. However, the reality is that in death, you wake up and care little for the world that you have left behind. Just as when you awaken from sleep, caring little for the people, places, things, and events that you have left behind in your dream world, unless you choose to, so it is at the time of your physical death. The only thing you take with you, the only thing of any true value from one dream world to the next is the love, respect, and ultimate lesson you have acquired while dreaming. See, this is the experience right here. I'm going to read this again. This is the experience. The only thing you take with you, the only thing of any true value from one dream world to the next is the love, the respect, and ultimate lesson you have acquired while dreaming. Consider this. Your physical existence is simply the dream of your non-physical existence at rest. And likewise, your non-physical existence is simply the dream of your physical existence at rest. But oh, what a joy when you actually wake up in your physical dream. Such an experience is indeed the essence of spiritual empowerment. What an empowerment! What a great revelation it is when one becomes conscious to one's true self as a being of conscious light while still dreaming one's physical reality. To realize that everyone in your conscious awareness, including your environment, is part of your self-induced dream state is the beginning of spiritual awareness. In fact, your physical body, this is so dope, your physical body is the vehicle that is carrying you through your dream, a dream created by your mind. For when one is spiritually conscious while physically dreaming, all things become possible. For what in the physical world is impossible to the one whose physical body is asleep, yet whose conscious awareness is awake to the spirit in the physical world? For when you reverse your conscious perception to perceive this physical world as the dream world, anything becomes possible. Fear is eliminated because death becomes simply an awakening, a transformation, a realization, an exit, as birth simply an entrance. All is creation. Everything is one. The universe is one, and all that proceeds from the universe is one. There is no other material reality. Therefore, there is no death for the being of conscious light that leaves the physical body every night at sleep. There's only transformation and rejuvenation. Destruction, as in the end of a thing's existence, is actually the illusion of an undeveloped and unaware mind that has not carried out the essence of things to their final and ultimate conclusion. For the only thing that is truly impossible in the physical universe is destruction. For we hold and limit the universe to our particular time and space out of fear and or doubt. Like a security blanket, we create and hide ourselves within our physical bodies. And out of fear and ignorance, we use our conscious perception to deny the terrifying presence of the infinite and chaotic conscious universe. We are hiding in our dreams. You see that, my nobility? We are hiding in our dreams. That's what most of us right now hearing this are doing, hiding in our dreams. Awake in the dream. Become the dream character. Start influencing the reality. Start waking up to who and what you are, and most importantly, why you are, why you were created. The seventh sense produces a kind of sight that sees the material world as an effect of conscious light energy, a dream. See that again? We talked about this earlier with waves. The seventh sense produces a kind of sight that sees the material world as an effect or conscious light energy, a dream. Everything physical is changing its form before your very eyes. The things of the material world are indeed temporary and illusionary. Only spirit itself, conscious light energy, is real and everlasting. Everything else is an effect of spirit, and the intelligence of all people, places, and things have their origin in spirit, which has its origin in the light energy of eternal mind. Here, the attuned hip-hopper becomes the teacher, having realized that there is no separation in light energy and that everything and everyone is simply another manifestation of intelligent light energy. The teacher looks beyond the temporary effects, cravings, and temptations of the material world, manipulating and affecting the intelligence of the material world at its source, which is light energy. At its source, my nobility, we are the light energy. And God can use us to affect everything in creation at its very core, at its very source of the morphogenetic field. The dream. There are no separations in light energy or the intelligence that produces it. All is one, including space and time, or space-time. Light energy simply manifests in a variety of forms and effects that we create and manipulate with our own perceptions. But you can manipulate light energy with your mind simply by expecting it to obey your commands. Yes, it is really that simple. And this is why the Temple of Hip Hop teaches spiritual training before and beyond traditional praise and worship. The training of one's spirit is all about the releasing of one's fears and doubts and getting past the cravings of the physical body for real. The spiritual training offered by the Temple of Hip Hop is a re-education as to what is real and possible spiritually. Here, learning to live beyond one's physical senses is all about freeing oneself from living exclusively within the interpretation of one's physical sense of physical reality. I got to read that again. Catch this. Here, learning to live beyond one's physical senses, okay, the spiritual side, is all about freeing oneself from living exclusively within the interpretation of one's physical sense of physical reality. beyond faith. Once you know and operate within the reality of the spirit realm, you shall habitually expect the laws of such a realm to obey your commands. Just as when you are born to this world, weak, helpless, dependent, and unaware of your life as a human being, so it is with your birth in the spirit world. When you are an infant in the physical world, you live within the wants and needs of an infant in the physical world. An infant expects to drink milk. An infant expects its mother to be there. An infant expects to play. An infant expects to sleep. An infant expects to learn. As you become a teenager, your wants and needs change based upon your level of maturity. Teenagers expect certain things that infants do not expect. And likewise, adults expect certain things based upon their level of maturity that neither teenagers nor infants expect. It is not that such things as cars, houses, a job, a career, relationships, etc. are out of a teenager's reach. These things exist all around teenagers. Most teenagers are uninterested in mortgages, car notes, and career choices. Others are not qualified to possess such items and ideas. Yeah, they may say, that's a hot car, or I want a house like that. But the truth is that they don't really expect to have a car or a house like that. The adult, on the other hand, who knows and operates within an adult world, expects to acquire in this world whatever she has worked to achieve. And the key phrase here is whatever she has worked to achieve. Okay, now we're familiar with that world, the world of car mortgages and career choices and cars and house mortgages, all of that. We've all experienced that. We've all seen it and said, oh, it's a hot car, and then we've experienced the adulthood of what it means to work and earn that, whatever we've worked to achieve. We all experienced that reality. But now we're getting to the point here. We're getting to what it means to be awake in the dream. And we're getting to be the point what Brandon Lee was saying about experiencing something new. That old reality, we already knew that whole reality of that old reality. We already know the whole reality of mortgages. We already know the outcomes 2, 3, 4 steps in advance. We already know what's the outcome's going to be. We're familiar with it. There's really no danger there. We don't even have to really walk in faith. It's beyond faith at that point. And but Brandon Lee was saying that then we want to become like a child again and experience something new. Well, look how in alignment this is. That's why it's so awesome and so dope and so incredible that Brandon Lee quote just popped up on the computer, because it's exactly what we're about to read here. Watch this. However, beyond adult maturity exists spirit maturity. And here, spirit beings require things and circumstances that adult human beings do not require. See, as a spirit being, you're not going to require the things that you require as a normal adult, as most of the adults living around you as well. Know this, if you are beginning to require the things of the Spirit more than the things of the world, you are indeed becoming an aware spirit being. The challenge now is, do you actually believe that? Do you truly believe that you are spirit? Do you actually operate within a spirit reality? Do you expect spiritual results? What have you actually worked to achieve spiritually? This is what spiritual training is all about. How can anyone expect to communicate with anyone or anything if they do not speak the language of who or whatever they wish to communicate to? Look at that. Look at that. How can you speak to God without knowing God's language? God does not speak English, French, or Spanish. God speaks health, love, awareness, and wealth, and hears intentions, not words. See that God hears our intentions, not our words. God knows. Through your thinking, feeling, and daily activities, do you speak God's language? Are you even in communication with God for real? God, the light of eternal mind, speaks through all of existence. Are you listening? God, the Great Spirit, does not speak through temples, churches, synagogues, mosques, or lodges exclusively. God is more likely to speak through the circumstances of your life. God's speaking through the circumstances of our life. It's the experience that we're having that God's speaking through. And yeah, we know how to pay the mortgages, most of us. Most of us have had the car notes and done this and done that, and we still continue to do it. When you walk in the spirit reality, there's still, certain adult things that you have to do. When you learn to walk as a kid, you didn't forget how to walk as an adult. You're still doing the things you learned to do as a kid that you struggle with, okay? But when the spirit reality happens, it's like Brandon Lee was saying, you become like this child again, and we have to grow into that then. We eventually begin to learn to kick and move around as spirit beings in the spirit world. God is looking out for us truly. God is truly looking out for us in everything we're doing. So what is the circumstances of your life showing you? What is the trajectory of your life with these circumstances that you're in right now? And allow that gradual change to take time, but when you awaken the dream, you're going to want more from the dream. When you awaken the dream, you expect more from the dream. And then God brings all of these surprises and these seemingly random events and these relationships and these circumstances into your life, and you've got to take them. You've got to go head on at them. You've got to really work with this to work with God. It ain't for the faint of heart. It ain't for the easy. That's why I don't say the things that are easy for people to achieve or easy for people to see. Self-creation ain't for the weak-hearted. It ain't for those who lack willpower. It ain't for that. That's why I don't have a spiritual channel that blows up all the time, because I ain't tickling people's ears. I ain't just telling them something that they think they want to hear. Get them all this fantasy, all this fantastical stuff that they never really accomplished, and the people speaking it most of the time haven't accomplished it either. Like, you really got to go through some things to really, the real enlightenment is through the struggle. We read that last week. The real enlightenment comes through the struggle. The darkest of life circumstances, the hardest of life circumstances teach the greatest lessons. The worst things I've gone through have been the best things for me. This is a hard situation I find myself in right now, one of the hardest ever up to this point. This has not been easy. Helping my pops and my mom's here. Watching my dad die, it's not easy for nobody to watch that. Some of you have experienced that. But through this process, I see why. I know why. I'm being the why, the how. God strengthened me through this. And I could not have done it any other way. And I wouldn't have chosen if I got to make the choice, I probably wouldn't have chosen it. I mean, I did make the choice, so yeah, we choose it. But we don't always know what we're getting into at first as it's being revealed. So just because life seems hard to you right now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to quit all of that. Some people, they need to quit things that are tough. Some people need to work through those things, which is most people. Because if you quit, it's still going to be a tough situation. So you got to figure it out. Sometimes you need to quit. Sometimes you need to stay where you're at. Sometimes you need to move. Sometimes you need to stay put. But grow where you're planted. Grow where God's got you. Wherever you're at is where you are, and embrace that where you're at. And awaken the dream. Start affecting these things within us, and then it starts affecting the things without us. I've said it before, but the one thing was funny was me and one of my partners, her and I were in Europe, and the country shut down. Okay, like all the banks shut down. So all I had was an ATM card. I didn't have any euros on. We didn't have any euros on us. All I had was the ATM card, which I've been putting gas on and everything else, hotel rooms and everything. And we ran out of gas and food, and we still had like 18 hours more to drive, 12 hours more to drive, something like that. And so we're just sitting there. But I already knew this. I'd already been through this so many times on tours before where things didn't look like they were supposed to work out, and the answer came immediately. And so her and I are just standing out front, and this Buddhist woman comes up to her and says, "Hey, can I have a light? You got a light?" And she says, "How are y'all doing?" I said, "We're doing great, but our car is out of gas, and we can't access gas, so we're waiting for an angel to come and help us out." She said, what do you need help with? Now keep in mind, like I was frantic. I was trying cards. I was going inside. I was trying to make calls. I was doing all this stuff to try and make it work out. I was trying. Then when I surrendered to the moment, when I finally just said surrender to the moment, I already know God's got me in this moment. God's got us in the moment. We're fine. This is exactly where we're supposed to be and exactly how it's supposed to play out. So lady comes, like literally within 5 minutes of saying that and feeling that, it shifted. And all of a sudden we were in alignment again. And a lady comes right up to us within 5 minutes of just acknowledging. We're in a dream. We're in a dream. Walks up to us, first person. I just say, hey, we're waiting for an angel to come help us. She says, what do you need help with? I said, well, listen, we're going to Spain. The banks are open in Spain. Everything will be good in Spain. But we can't swipe our cards here, and we don't have enough euros to go anywhere. She says, you know what? I just got back from a Buddhist retreat. You wouldn't have known the woman was a Buddhist just looking at the way she was dressed. She's a practicing Buddhist. I just got from a Buddhist retreat. She said, we were told, okay, see, you got to see how great God is. This is amazing. She says, we were told that we would be expected to go out of our way to help strangers in need. And we were taught that when we walk in that faith, that the reward is the experience itself, that we don't need anything in return. I said, wow. She says, well, I have this envelope of money, but it's so my family can pay rent next month. She brought out a calculator. She figured out how much gas we were going to need, how much we were going to need for food, and put a little extra there. She pulled cash and gave it to us, gave us the euros in cash. I said, yo, I'm going to pay you back double. We're going to give you double. She said, no, I just, this is the faith because I know that you'll pay me back. Can you just wire me exactly, I don't want any more. She says, if you send any more, I will send it back to you. I was like, okay, wow, okay. So, excuse me. Choked up a little. So God, in that moment, had put us both on each other's path. Okay? God had called her through the Buddha, through the nature of Buddha, to this exact event. God had called us through the nature of us as hip-hop, to this exact moment, knowing that God was going to already provide the exact help we needed. Here she comes, in her own faith, walks in the faith, gives us the euros. We graciously receive, accept, thank you, God. We continued on our journey almost like nothing happened. It was less than an hour. And had I gotten mad and upset, or if we were arguing and I was cursing and I was trying to force, or I was begging, and all kind of energy could have made that whole situation a disaster. But instead we witnessed and just experienced the miracle. And fast forward, she didn't answer her emails. I was sending her emails, she didn't answer. I told her, make sure you send me an email immediately so we have contact. She didn't do it. So I had this money sent in the account. I'm sending her emails, not hearing nothing back from her. I'm like, yo, this is whack. Her family needs that money. We got back to the United States, heard from her finally, 3-4 months had gone by. And I was like, yo, I'm so sorry. I sent you emails, and she said, I gave you the wrong, she had it written down. I read it, I typed in exactly, I still had the paper. She wrote her email down. I read it back to her. She said, yeah, that's the email. I gave you the wrong email address. I said, I was ready to send you that money just the next day. She said, you know what? She's typing this out. She said it was perfect because another miracle came through and the money came through a whole other way. And so I sent her the money. She, with the exchange, the circle was complete. But look how she was called, walked in her faith, freely gave. But things didn't work out the way she thought. She thought she was just going to get the money from us. Immediately, she would have, if she didn't write her email down wrong. Or she would have just emailed me. But God did that on purpose, had her write the email on purpose. So she ended up learning the exact same lesson that we were learning. The exact same one. God's got you. She was walking in faith. God sent the money back to her from another source. I remember praying that she would get the money even. I was like, God, this woman helped us out. I just pray her family gets the money she needs. God's like, I know. I mean, look at the precision and accuracy and perfection and beauty and miracle that is God. And this is all of it. This isn't just one-offs. This is everything. This is every breath. This is every day. But we get lulled to sleep. We get caught up in our own head. The matrix is stressful, right? All these pressures and stuff is going on. But the true reality, just like I was saying, I'm stressed, I'm swiping the card, I'm asking this, I'm trying to make calls, I'm trying to do all these things to get the money. It was when I stopped the stressing, I stopped the worrying about it, I said, wait a minute. We live in a dream world. I've already experienced this thing countless times being on tour where exactly what I need to show up and exactly who I need to meet just shows up. It's just like that in life now. Why don't I just stop for a moment and chill out? The moment, within 5 minutes of that happening, everything was back in alignment. And even that energy of being out of alignment was part of the alignment. But I stayed in that energy and not came in a receptive nature and the acknowledgement of God and the sight, the third eye sight of God, that miracle would have been missed. I could have been 3 spaces over and she could have asked somebody else for a light. Any little this minute intersection of that time and space, and think about all of the energy and all of the experience that went into that time and space from her Buddhist retreat, saying she was going to come into a situation like this. For us, and for myself on my own spiritual walk, knowing that intersection, this is happening for, that this is where we need to walk, to meet up right there and experience multiple miracles forward from that moment. That's awaken the dream. That's lucid dreaming. I need the angel to appear. Boom, the angel appears. It's that easy. It took practice, though, to get that sensitivity. Because it's not in English, it's not in Spanish, it's not in French, it's in God. God's language, which is experience, freedom, frequency, truth, vibration, love. But you got to live the divine performance. You got to be disciplined in the spirit. That's what the spiritual training is about. And to be awakened in the dream, be disciplined in the physical and the spiritual. Get that spiritual training. Expect the miracle. Expect it to happen in an unexpected way, but be ready when it does. If you ain't ready, the miracle is going to come and you're only going to barely experience it, mess it up, or miss it altogether. But when we're prepared for the miracle and the miracle shows up and we receive the miracle and our body can vibrate with the miracle and move with the miracle and then we land on our feet, boom. Then we wait for the next one, then the next one comes, and then that's how it moves. It's amazing. And then God, remember now, let's go back for those who are, because you might be like, well, Zin, you're in this situation right now, it don't seem so miracle, you're not able to go anywhere and do anything, you're at home all the time. Yeah, but so many miracles are happening. The creativity is a miracle, the health, love, awareness, and wealth is a miracle. But remember, in Perform Patience, we talk about, in the Divine Performance Patience, we talk about don't ask to be used as a tool of God unless you're ready to be stuck in, to clean up the feces and vomit and puke of the world. So as a tool of God, as an instrument of God, you're going to be put in hard circumstances to help others. And sometimes it'll be your family, and sometimes it won't be. Sometimes it'll just be a work environment. Sometimes it's a number of things. But they're all there to experience and to grow and to grow through and to overcome. And when you're awake of the experience, yeah, you might stumble. Yeah, you might mess up. Yeah, you might act out of character. But you can always come right back into it, come back to the center, come back to the truth, come back to the grace, come back to the peace, come back to the wholeness. Give that divine performance, pick yourself up and keep moving forward. Don't sit there wallowing in pity. Oh, I messed up. Oh, I'll never do it again. I feel so sad. No. It's about get yourself up, get back on track. You stumble a little, get yourself up, get back on track. This ain't for the weak and the weary. This is for the empowered. And this lifestyle is empowering. This truth is empowering. But the empowering comes over time. It's a gradual process, my nobility. The wake and the dream is a gradual process, but when you experience it all the time, it is a miracle of all miracles, and it's wonderful. And my nobility, I just send health, love, awareness, and wealth to you, your family, your loved ones, your environment, an empowering presence in your life of God, and the surrender to God. And the awakening of the surrender is the awakening in the dream. Awakening your dream, my nobility, part 2. Part 3 will be next week. We'll finish up our reading of the 7th sense in the gospel of hip hop. And I just say unto thee, in health, in love, in awareness and wealth, in peace and prosperity. There it is. Hip! Oh. Peace.